everybody. My name is Amalia Dinon, and I'm presenting my research towards the theory on the invisible STEM barrier, what access, representation, and exposure overlooks. On the right side of my slide, you see the national report card for 8th graders. On average, the students who are most proficient in math, we know STEM is a rigorous curriculum for math, 28% of students. Access, representation, and exposure allows students, no matter where they test in math, to participate, which is great. But translated, that means 1 in 4 students can handle the math rigor it takes to pursue a STEM career. On the flip side, that means 3 out of 4 students in STEM learning environments don't have what it takes, no matter how well they perform in STEM learning environments, to advance beyond participation. I figured this out when I was hosting my Hair Braiding is a STEM workshop, 750 participants, every demographic. You think hair braiding, no guys are interested, but men were almost 50% of my participation. Figuring out at the end of every session that no matter, they made the connection before anybody else did, no matter how well they did in the classes, they don't have a STEM future. And so I started looking for data that would support this. And so I looked into how much money had been spent on STEM learning environments, $171 billion over 23 years. I decided to look up how much is that per year, $6 billion. It surprised me because there's still workforce shortages. 3.5 million manufacturing workers needed, that's hands-on STEM applied. 1.8 vacancies anticipated by 2034. So what does the data say if access, representation, and exposure is supposed to impact the workforce? The STEM gap community is considered women, individuals with disabilities, and Blacks. So I decided to look at the data closer. I looked at women. 9 percentage points over 23 years. That might sound impressive. Annualized, that's 0.39%. That can literally be explained by natural increase. Individuals with disabilities, 0.5% over 23 years. That can literally work out to be explained as natural increase, 0.02% annualized. So I looked at Blacks because they say 10% of STEM is Black, but what does that look like across every race? At a high level, 13 percentage points over 23 years, annualized 0.56%. All of the money was spent to impact these demographics, and the increase shows literally natural progression. So what does that mean? I want to kick off my journey. And you might think, oh, it's a math issue. I think it's bigger than that, and I'm about to show you one. So 10 years ago, I was a secretary, accidentally got placed at an engineering organization. Within a few months, we were doing a team building exercise, and I pulled out a math formula I thought I had created in high school. Because I don't like guessing, I like certainty. The engineers realized that only engineers think about math to solve problems. So she's probably not a secretary, she's an engineer. My boss decided to include me in engineering projects. After a year, I started catching errors that the engineers were overlooking. He said, you're understanding master's and PhD concepts, you don't even have a degree. That made me realize there's something more. I leaned into that. I was too nervous to do engineering because I thought I was old, and how am I going to explain that I'm starting so late in life? So I decided to master in data analytics. I was always good in math. That led to, it opened my eyes so much, I wanted to be part of access, representation, and exposure. That led to Hair Braiding is a STEM. Realizing the connection I had made and nobody was listening, I decided to do my DPA in public administration. Hopefully I can impact change through policy also. So I want you to look at this example and tell me if you think this child belongs in STEM. It may be fictional or not. I'll go up this side so you can see. Couple seconds, you look at it. Do you think this child belongs in STEM? Anybody who thinks they belong in STEM, put your hand up. So which access representation, just for context, which access representation and exposure program would this child even fit in? This is a child that probably would be considered somebody that can't be helped. That child is Thomas Edison. And so if access, representation, and exposure is overlooking someone as gifted as Thomas Edison, who else are we overlooking? And so maybe the STEM gap needs to be redefined from women, individuals with disabilities, and Blacks. And so I created a framework using my experience, the information that I got from hosting hair braiding is a STEM to create a framework, that I'm currently building. I consider it pretty much complete, but I'll walk you through it. So I define the STEM gap as people who are below the national literacy level. We saw that from the report card. I also regard it as historic STEM deserts, people who don't have access to conversations with people who are in STEM. Because if you have access, you can ask questions, my kid is doing this, what's STEM feel you? If you don't have those conversations, you don't recognize, just like we looked at Thomas Edison and we didn't see that anything STEM there, but there were indicators in his life that showed that he belonged in STEM. And so I use this side of it. I'm gonna skip over it because we know I don't have a lot of time, but I used a STEM framework here to show that if the child was an athlete, we had a framework that we can follow. There is no STEM framework that shows how a child should track beyond STEM learning environments. So I call this pre-access representation and exposure. STEM aptitude, academics. I don't know about you, but I've heard kids say, what does this even have to do with life? When would I ever use this? Having this track helps them map, and the families map, and the teachers map. So if a child is demonstrating aptitude, you can address it because now you have context. And so in ending, what am I at time? If 3 out of 4 students excel in hands-on STEM, so understanding advanced science complex, engineering task, what solution do we have for them? And I consider that to be the pre-ERE framework. That's my presentation. If you have any questions, I think I have 12 minutes, so I'll wrap those now. Thank you.
Did you develop a program around hair braid? I think I might have missed the connection. Can you just, I don't know, just anecdotally, like what does that program look like just as you're experiencing?
So before I created the framework, I patented a braid pattern tool that teaches plaiting in 60 seconds, 90 seconds into corner, because doing pattern-based, people are able to advance faster. Then I built a science kit around the composition of hair, the periodic table, and a lot of geometry and trigonometry. And I built that around, and the kids did excellent in it. Parents were participating. And no matter how well you did, they'll say, but I fail math and science. So it doesn't matter how well I do here, it doesn't matter.
I just want to say that this is amazing. Like, I'm really looking forward to what you have to.
Thank you.
Like, I'm gonna really be looking forward to what you have, because I have a child that has some learning delays, and I'm always wondering, like, how's the journey ahead is gonna be like, and what kind of resources I need to give her, and how, because it's as parents, this is like very, very important to you, and you're like concerned. You're always concerned. What is the future going to be like? So things like that are really, really very important. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Thomas Edison didn't speak until 4. So I'll tell you, in one of my classes, I had a kid who had dysgraphia. I didn't even know what it was. The dad was pulling her away from the table, but something in her eyes were fierce. And so based on the fact that dysgraphia means you can't do patterns and certain things, and the dad said, I'm going to take her back to the doctor and see what alternative things we can do to try to strengthen her, because if she can learn to braid, then maybe there are other things that she can learn that they're not even participating in.
I'll say really quick, because I know we have time. There's a book called The End of Average by Todd Rose that gets at this idea of like how we organize what is normal and aptitude around this idea of average, and it actually messes up our entire ability to see aptitude. So you might enjoy that book. I just read it.
I'll get it from you after this one.
Is your program, or are you reaching out to, let's say, public schools? Because many public schools, they do, some of them try to have programs, and then there's other organizations that try to have STEM. I think incorporating that in, that at least that braids the braiding show. Oh, well, okay, she could be STEM. She does that.
So I did 750 participants. I reached out to almost every school in the area. Nobody was interested because they had coding and all the things that were labeled. But the point I'm making, if 3 out of 4 students cannot do well in math, it doesn't matter the program that they participate in, they will still struggle. And so I'm saying that we need to build aptitude show how the aptitude aligns to STEM. Like for example, I actually have the slide here. I show here. Thomas Edison, a kid who's hyperactive. I don't know if you know this, but 99% of engineers have ADHD. The only thing they can focus on is the thing they obsess about. And so while we're here thinking that let's throw them in a class, I don't believe in throw them in a class. I did well academically and nobody slated me for STEM. And so we need to look at STEM differently. In high school, I was doing trigonometry in my head. That's a kid, to me, I don't want to hail myself, but kids putting them in a STEM program does not help. It's the reason why it's less than 1% increase, no matter the demographic that it is. So that it needs to be shaped the same way we shape sports. And we can say little league and this, and you can we need to do the same thing with STEM. So it's not about just getting the program into the school. It's taking a look at the child differently. Do you have any questions, Ismail?
Sorry, you're just letting your 10 minutes.
Oh, 10 minutes, okay.
What state are you live?
Maryland.
University of Baltimore.
Yes,
Yeah.
University of Baltimore. Woo.
Cool.
Yeah.
I did my undergrad there and my PhD. Anybody else has any questions? If not, I can give some extra time to the students. Okay, perfect. That's my presentation.